It's a short talk where peace begins. We talk life, love, and what's within. Movies, healing, self-care flow. Real talk, safe space, let it grow. It's a short talk where hearts unwind. Sip your peace, speak your mind. It's a short talk, feel the vibe. It's your moment, come alive.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Easter Shore Talk, your podcast for all things self-care movies. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. We're glad to have you. If you're watching on YouTube, please click like, hit subscribe, and leave a comment below. If you're on one of the other podcast platforms, hit subscribe, follow, and leave a comment and or a review. It helps us big time. This is episode 95. I'm Jay Watson.
And I'm Cathy Castle.
And Cathy and I are going to talk a little bit about something that we've kind of touched on here and there throughout the history of the podcast. We're going to dive more into loneliness, maybe the different types of loneliness, how different ways we can feel alone. I think kind of like defining grief. I think the word loneliness is much broader than people might think. I think most people, their primary thought when somebody says they feel alone is the physically, meaning the physical presence of another person. And that's certainly one of the definitions, but you can feel lonely or feel alone in several other different ways, and we're going to dive into that. And we're going to talk a little bit about maybe some tools, why that is, and some tools to kind of not feel so lonely, because nobody wants to feel lonely. It's not or feel alone in someone. None of us want to feel that way. So
Antidote.
yes, so we're going to get into all that, and we're going to do a little. We're going to get down and dirty with talking about the season 5 review of Stranger Things. Cathy and I have a little slightly different approaches to how we feel about it. Not opposite. It's not like that, but one of us has been much more emotionally engaged in it, and it's not the person you normally think. In other words, it's not me this time. Who's normally the one who does that? So we switched roles, and that's
You're,
kind of the fun.
you're contagious, Joe.
That's kind of the fun part, that we all watch different things and we take different parts, and that's kind of the fun of enjoying a movie. It's providing a self-care, but in different ways, and it's apparently really provided Cathy with some self-care. Not now, currently. She doesn't feel that way after the fact, but we'll get into that a little bit. Of course, we'll do our trivia, but let's get into talking a little bit about loneliness, Cathy. So I'm gonna let you start off by talking about, maybe I'm sure you've done some articles, and maybe talk about different kinds of loneliness and defining it, and we'll start there.
If I keep dipping and diving, I'm at work and our heating is broken. So I have a portable heater and I can't decide if I'm hot or cold. I'm kicking off shoes. I'm putting on shoes. I'm turning the heat up. Real problems here at Old Channel Market. Anyway, this topic of loneliness, this is going to sound really strange, but I really like talking about it. Which sounds weird, right? To say I like talking about it, but I do like talking about it because I feel like it's a very misunderstood concept, and I enjoy studying about loneliness because it's not something. The way I always define loneliness is exactly how you started out by saying it. Well, then you're alone, right? You're lonely. I feel alone. Absence of being around others. I feel by myself. That's how I've always described it. And it wasn't until COVID hit, we have the and the post-COVID time, that I really started to hear about loneliness as a public health epidemic. So in 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General officially declared loneliness as an epidemic. So I really became curious at that time. And curiosity, what does it do? Makes us learn more and read more, right? So I've become very fascinated by that topic because it's not what you think. So there's a good article, Psychology Today, and it has a couple bullet points to talk about loneliness. And the first one is, loneliness is not about being alone. It's about feeling unseen. So I think that's a very, very, very important bullet point. And I'll repeat it again. Loneliness isn't about being alone. The physical presence of being just with yourself. It's about feeling unseen. And later in the article, it also says, besides being unseen, feeling unheard, unimportant, unmet in some kind of meaningful way. So that's that. The next point was our modern life is creating this. You know, you and I talked a little bit about this before the podcast, and we'll get into that. Another important thing to know is loneliness affects not only our mind, because we can imagine if we feel lonely, you know, we're going to be sad and maybe we'd have some of that anxious and depressive kind of feeling, but it also harms our physical health, our physical body. There's some comparisons that the physical impact of loneliness is comparative to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, which to me is insane that that topic, loneliness, can have that kind of physical reaction on a body.
Yeah.
And the good news is that there is an antidote, and it's reversing it and finding belonging. So if loneliness is not the state of mind or physical being we want to be in, belonging is the fix for that. And we'll talk about later on ways to do that. So that's kind of the definition of it.
I love how that was kind of defined. What publication did that come from?
I've looked at a lot, but particularly those bullets came out of a Psychology Today article. Oh, there's our
Podcast time. That's the official podcast. They're signaling to the neighborhood that the podcast is going on.
let
I
me tell
love how
you.
they say it's not about physical presence. It's about a feeling of not being seen, not being heard. I think that's perfectly said because we
It's
can.
actually an article called The Pain of Feeling Unseen, and it's by Psychology Today. You could Google that article. It's a really good one, very easy to understand.
You can be in a room of 100 people and feel alone. And I often that I've talked a lot about my kind of my social awkwardness and my lack of social skills and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of describes it very, you know, at least in my case, sitting in a room of a bunch of people, I it's an inward thing. It's not what the presence of these people are providing for me with their physical presence. I've walked into the situation already feeling not enough. So I'm automatically, I want, now these people feel like, although maybe they've not said a word to me, if I'm feeling it about myself, I've got that self talk.
Right.
Now I've convinced myself that everybody else in the room must be feeling the same way. I don't fit. I don't belong. And it's evolved for me, at least anyway, where it's now, I tend to, you know me, Kathy, I don't ever feel alone physically. Ever, ever, ever. That doesn't bother me one iota.
Which is great. That's great. But you've learned
Well,
that's not natural. I mean, you have created that so you're not that way.
yes.
You've
Now,
worked hard.
but I do have social needs. They're lower than most, but I think everybody's social needs are varied. They're different. Mine are lower than most people's. But anyway, my thing has always been, and I don't say this derogatory towards myself. I've always known that how I think and how I view the world in a general sense is different. And I don't say that, I'm not saying that to put myself down. It's just, I think all of ours should be different. But I think mine is, I always think that like in a social setting, generally the folks in that room are not going to want to talk about the same things as I do because I look at life differently. The things that interest me tend to be different typically. Now, having said that, it's not nearly as bad as the picture that I used to paint of that. I used to think nobody else in the world thought the same way I did, but that's far from the truth. I still think that there are not a whole lot of people that think and feel the same that I do, but my experience through my healing journey with the podcast, the in-person group is, and with the networking of what I call the self-care network that's all over the place, there are a lot more people that are like-minded to myself than I ever thought. I wish we could all wear a sign, Kathy, and it says, these are my topics. These are my interests. And just so if we're in a crowded room, I can spot somebody and say, oh, that's the person, that's a like minded person. And
There's bird watching.
and run right over it.
It
Yes,
can't be.
yes, it would. It would be so much more efficient, and people wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Well, less uncomfortable.
Who knows? We may have glasses in the future that,
Yep.
and dings in our.
Or you have like you have a chip on your credit card, have some kind of, not in your body, but have like a necklace thing that's got a chip, and somebody can scan your chip on you, and your interest, your core values pop up and say, oh yeah, like
Wait,
speed dating, but not dating.
right. So you go by that person, like, keep walking, keep walking.
Yep.
And they're going to know why you're walking.
Yep. And that's okay, because they're going to walk by somebody else.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's loneliness is a lack of fitting in, but it's deeper
Yeah.
than that. It's a, like you said, not feeling seen, not feeling heard.
Well, and the irony of it is we're more connected now than ever. And we're lonelier than ever. And I want to get into
Yes.
the statistics as well, but it doesn't hardly even make sense. And that's why you have to talk about it. That's why it's so important that we're talking about it right now, so people understand it. Because you have to understand it to identify it in yourself to fix it.
We're
Right?
more technologically connected, but we're less socially connected than we're more and less connected at the same time, but
Right,
in
right.
different categories. Yeah.
And we're wired to be connected.
Yes. And again, everybody's requirements are
Right.
different.
And we could and if we had a whole nother podcast, we could break it down even further clinically, like emotional connection, physical. There's a lot of connection, different kinds as well, but we're talking about it generally.
Yeah. And I liked how you talked about how feeling lonely can feel like having smoked 15.
To me, that just startled me when I heard that.
Now, that, yes, when it's said out loud, it sounds shocking that it's that many cigarettes. But yet, we've talked a lot about on the podcast about how trauma and stress we hold in our physiological body. So that kind of goes hand in hand with that, because it might only be in the moment, but it's a stress in the moment of not feeling seen or heard. And it instantly goes to our nervous system and we hold it in our body.
What can I say? Then let's talk about what that looks like. We can come back to the statistics. In my order, I was going to talk about statistics next, but let's talk about how it feels since you brought that up. You're exactly right. Because I'm sitting here thinking, well, if you smoke 13 cigarettes, is it not as bad? Or if you do 16? I do these silly things in my brain sometimes. Anyway, you're right. Rather it's trauma, it's this loneliness. We could probably name so many things. At the end of the day, it starts affecting us physically because there's the whole fight or flight response, the cortisol hose just filling us up, inflammation, all the things. And then loneliness in this case is making our nervous system go into preservation mode, which is the whole fight, flight, freeze. Okay. So it's making our bodies react, and we're trying to protect ourselves. So
Yep.
we do put more cortisol out. We are, our sleep gets interrupted and worse. Our blood pressure actually rises. So there's really physical things that happen in our body in response to this loneliness problem.
So as you're talking, Kathy, I'm thinking about those who might have a pattern. In other words, they feel lonely a lot. They feel lonely in a lot of different situations. And my question to you would be, I mean, I kind of know what I think about it, but it's because, like I said, using myself as an example, I would walk into a social situation already feeling lesser than. So I was prone to feel lonely when I walked in, no matter how many people were there anyway.
Doesn't mean you have 10 people by you, you still feel lonely.
Yes.
So
It
you
had
figure
nothing to
that
do
out
with the people in the room.
technology.
So
Yeah.
I'm bringing something. I'm bringing baggage, if you want to call it baggage. I'm bringing an unhealthy mindset of myself into it. So,
Which our brain does to us. Our brain loves to pull that negative trick on us.
yes.
Loves it.
But I think, and you tell me what you think, I think maybe in situations like where someone feels constantly alone, is it about the situation they walk into, or is it something that they've got to address about how they feel about themselves to begin with?
I agree with
Or
the latter.
both, maybe. Yeah.
Well, it could be both, but I think I think it comes from us.
Yeah.
I do. And I mean, well, better than anyone, tell it all the time on the podcast. There's a lot of self work that has to be done.
Yes.
You can pitch the blame card like a 52 pickup all over the place. But you've got to start with you,
Yes.
how you respond to things.
Which is, we'll get into that in a minute, where
Obsessive.
the antidote comes from. Yeah.
Right. But I think it's important to say this too. I talked about sleeping becomes a problem, the cortisol levels increase, blood pressure can increase. And then the more obvious, I guess, is people could get some anxiety and depression creeping in. And I had no idea about this, but it could also increase risk of heart disease, which, can lead to stroke, some cognitive decline, like in the dementias. So that's worrisome.
Yeah.
That was part of the research that I was studying, is that the healthcare field has got to start recognizing that this is a health problem. And in that case, what are providers talking to their patients about? I mean, it's not, okay, maybe your blood pressure is heightened or your anxiety is heightened. Okay, but why? Let's get to the reason, because not everything is fixed in a bottle, or you got a diagnosis and that's just it. You're that. What's causing those things?
Yeah. We talk about self care, taking care of your mind, body, and soul, and with, I'll call it healthy socialization, meaning you're choosing the right situations to be social in, whether you're connecting and interacting, and you're also bringing a healthy into those interactions, so the loneliness is less likely to be there. With self care, you're kind of hitting two of the three. You're hitting body, because we just talked about the physiological impact that feeling lonely and being lonely consistently can have, but you're also, you're getting a healthy mindset. You're bringing a healthy mindset into the situation, but the choosing the right situations to interact and be social is kind of a give and take. Each person in the group is kind of gaining something from having that healthy social connection and socialization at the same time. So it's, you're kind of double dipping there, where, I think choosing, why I say healthy situations, is that's kind of, I think we all at times are pick the wrong people or the wrong situations, or, whether that's, the wrong career, or we're just not, the socialness of work is not a great place where you're getting wellness benefits from.
So we talked about definitions. We've talked about how it feels in our bodies. I do want to talk, before we talk about some of the causes, I do want to talk about some statistics that are worrying me a bit. So the one statistic that's worrying me the most right now, which really is why I want us to talk about it, why I was glad we're talking about this, is that the young adults, the Gen Z generation, that group is reporting higher rates of loneliness than before. 73% of surveyed Gen Z people are saying they're lonely. That's a lot. And they said primarily that 18 to 22-year-old category. So the boomers, Gen X like us, millennials right under us, are not feeling it. I mean, we're feeling it, believe me, because half of adults in the United States say they're lonely. 1 in 6 globally, and then 73% of these Gen Z. So I'm worried about that, right? Because and what's going on with Gen Z? They're more technologically connected probably than
Yes.
anybody.
Yeah. If they haven't known any different. Yeah.
Men are less likely to seek some kind of support.
But Kathy, I wonder what their definition of lonely is. I know the definition we're talking about here, but like, when they've been surveyed, and they're asked, "Do you feel lonely?" Are they answering from an aspect of physically lonely, or just generally alone? I'm curious about that.
The way I took it was generally lonely.
Okay.
For example, Snapchat a lot of them use Snapchat. At least I'm comparing people in my universe, my house, my kids, their friends. And so they're watching where friends are. So you can see if a group of people are here, but you're not there, or maybe you weren't invited to that party, or you think it's a party. Maybe it's not even a party. Then all of a sudden you feel bad about yourself and you feel lonely. There's lots of things going on there. I mean, maybe you were just in a group chat on a game and you think everything's great, everything's going good, and then an hour later you see everybody somewhere else and they didn't tell you about that. So there's
FOMO. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. So the data is really bothersome to me. I mean, and adults reporting that they feel lonely at least one time a week. Young adults, half the time they're feeling lonely. Moms with small children are feeling pretty lonely. And you're like, okay, well, they've got a family around them. They're grateful, right? But there's a lot. I had a coworker that said she woke up this morning fully dressed in the clothes she fell asleep in on her bed with two of her kids beside her. Just physical exhaustion. You know, there's just a lot of. I'll say this. I said this to you earlier. Here's some interesting things to say. We as a society, and I guess we're kind of getting to the causes, but I'll start with this. We as a society have traded a sense of community, belonging, people, for convenience. If you take that just in itself, it's really nice that we can order everything by Amazon, or we can order on our app and pick it up curbside at Walmart or Target or whatever grocery store we choose. But now you're not walking through that store and seeing, your neighbor or whatever, whoever, and having those conversations. And maybe you didn't have time for those conversations, but yet they were belonging in conversation. So we've traded that sense of community for our own convenience. We've traded genuine connection for efficiency. We got to do things quicker, faster. Don't worry about being connected. We got to get things done. We got to make the most of our day. We got to push as much as we can in one day. Working hours, right? We've spilled our working over into our personal time. Genuine friendships. We were kids, we probably got on our bikes and were gone for hours. That's not what kids are doing now. That might be traded or replaced by, again, a group chat on a gaming site, or even in whatever social media. And technology didn't cause it, but it certainly made it a heck of a lot worse.
Yeah.
And then this is the last part of this. It says we're more visible than ever, yet at the
Let's
same
see.
time more invisible as
Yes.
how's that even possible?
As you're talking about all this stuff, Kathy, it's probably very generational. In other words, we'll use your dad, Tom Barwick, as an example. And I don't. Maybe Tom is on social media more than I think, but he
He
just
does like himself some reels.
he just comes across to me where he's just an out and about kind of
He
guy.
is.
Yes, where he's out and about and he just runs into people out and about. And he may periodically pop on whatever on his phone or whatever. And then our generation is kind of less. We're kind of maybe, although we're probably 50-50. We're fine if we're out and about and we can do that and we're fine, and it's because we've done that before. That was a part of our life at one time. The only part at one time. Well, and we've kind of shifted into, okay, we do that and it has value, but we also know that there's a way there social media, believe it or not, can kind of connect you to people that you would not know. And there is some value there, but there's a dependence, and then there's the generation that, especially if they were like Dylan's age, where like he was in the middle of school when COVID hit and had to do all that in
No,
school.
it affected them so much. That is the COVID kids that were hit. That
Yeah,
is the COVID kids that were hit, that
yeah,
18 through 22. But when I'm thinking about this connection versus efficiency too, I'm thinking about, I don't know which kid of mine it was, but I remember one time saying to whoever it was, call blah, blah, blah and order pizza. I'm not calling. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm going to do it online. Well, whatever. Why don't I just call? It's just probably easier to call it in. I don't want to talk to anybody. And I remember being so shocked by that at that time. And I'm like, wow. And now it's more, you have more apps and whatever to order pizza.
but
But
here's the thing, Kathy, and here's the irony in that is that it's still to this day way quicker to dial the pizza, still way faster.
I know, right?
Here's the generation. It's all about quick and easy and fast. that won't do that, not because of how long or how short it takes, but that they're uncomfortable with talking to somebody on the other end of the
Right.
telephone.
Like, God forbid, do not go to the bank. My children are still like that. And I got somebody that works at the bank. They're like, I don't understand why people go to the bank. Why don't you just do it with your phone? And I'm like, I still go to the bank. I'm old and I still go to the bank. You know? Hi, how are you? Good to see you.
Yeah. I
I go to
do,
the
but I
bank.
normally do most of mine online, or I do my deposits in the ATM. Like I can go any time of day.
But they think it's insane that people would even walk in a bank.
Yeah.
I'm like,
They don't, I mean, they don't never really know any different. You know, they're not going to know how to balance a checkbook or, all
there is
those
no
kind of things.
checkbooks.
Yeah. Or a checking account. Yeah.
Yeah. I was a person that really personally struggled without, remember, you'd write your date, the check number, or whatever, and you subtracted it. Like, to let that go, I was probably much longer than other people because I was
Yeah.
like, I can't do this. How am I going to do this?
Yeah. I only write one check a month. Everything else is done online. I write my rent check in, as a physical
Yeah.
check. Everything else I literally do online. And I was like slow to it at first because I was worried about, all right, now the internet has my banking information. The ether has my
Yeah.
account number. I was
Right.
more worried about that security wise than I was that it was different than what I was used to. But now it's just like this is the way to go.
So before we get into the good stuff, the fixie stuff, I mean, we've probably talked a little bit about this already, but the causes, we have the obvious cause of this loneliness, or the first one that might come to our mind would be what?
Yeah,
Technology,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh yeah. The environment in our country these days, yes. And yeah, that kind of exacerbates things, I think, Kathy, for sure. But I also think again is well, I think the cause is the same. Whether somebody is just feels alone in their thoughts or they feel lonely physically, because you can't have both. I think if it's just periodically, I think that's kind of normal. Where you're like where you're taking stock in your place in the world. Like, because I think we all should self-reflect and do that, no matter what. And periodically, if you feel that way, I think that's kind of it makes you kind of step back and say, okay, what can I do better to be more social physically? What can I do better to feel better internally, have a better mindset? But if it's something that if you're constantly feeling lonely or alone in a more specific way, I mean that I say this all the time. A strong sense of self is kind of what is the kind of the antidote through self care that kind of
So
um,
yeah, so and people, I think people do have a less sense of self because we're really in a in your face 24/7 comparing
yes,
time. Shoot, we left school and you came home and you were so less connected. I mean, especially if you couldn't drive yet, right?
yep,
You were home, and unless that phone rang on the wall, you were not connected to somebody, or you walk down the street to your friends. So we're always on show all the time now. And there's just societal shift, don't you think? Like, I mean, neighbors looked after neighbors' kids, grandmas had a you didn't want to get lit up by grandma or whatever the case was.
yeah. It
You
takes
know,
a village to.
it's just, and it's less of that. Their society community is not the same. It's not.
And then social media in its presence makes things worse. Not only just because it's too much convenience, but it's also it's fool's gold. In other words, you're getting a false sense of connection there because nobody nobody really puts their real self on social media. I mean, not really. All you ever see is the highlight reels of everybody's. That's why they call it a reel, because it's let me just throw all the positive out. That's fine, you know, but you're not.
You can't think that's the way life
How
is on.
many people how many people that you see their posts on your reel do you really know beyond what's on your phone?
Yeah.
But yet so many, especially the younger generation, have convinced themselves that they know that person
Yeah.
because if it's in their hand, they know them
Right.
because they said X, Y, and Z. but is that person really? I mean, look, we all do it in any situation. We put our best foot forward. We don't go introduce ourselves negatively on purpose. None of us do that. But social media is that on steroids. It's like, let me do this big grand thing and let me do it 10 times a day, every day, because I want you to only see that my life is good. We all know that that's BS. So you're not even getting a good representation of connection on there.
Don't you think too? There's more diversions now that keeps us more lonely. Like, you know what I mean?
There are too many other things to do except to connect, actually connect.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And then we're not doing the deep work anymore, where we're like, oh, I should send so and so a text and see how they're doing from their surgery, or I should whatever ask how the kids' first day of school was, since they're back after break. We do less of that sitting and thinking of other people or even ourselves. Just go, go, go. We're distracted. And then we're tired. Then we do it again. We're in a loop.
Yeah. So it got me. My mind goes to all kind of different. The whole social media thing.
You know what? I took a 24-hour Stranger Things influenced social media haul. That's a lot for me because I'm zipping through it. I'm doom scrolling all the time. But I was so afraid I was gonna hit spoilers. I stayed off of everything for 4 hours,
Yeah.
and I was fine. I lived. It's amazing.
It's funny. I left the house. What day was this? It was over the weekend, and I was gone for a couple hours, and I left my phone at my apartment. I got to the gym, and I realized the gym was my first stop. And I realized I didn't have it. And look, I only live a mile from the gym, so it would have been easy for me to turn around, drive my butt home, and get my phone. But I'm like, I hate doing that. It could be across the street, and I would not want to go back. It's just something about that. So I'm like, and for about a minute, because because what I'll do is right before I get on the treadmill, I'll look at I'll look at emails or whatever, like right then, and I'll put my phone in my pocket and not do it again until I leave the gym, not touch it at all. But I'm like, look, I'm not missing anything because I wouldn't for in between getting there and leaving, I wouldn't be on it anyway. But I ended up going to the gym, and then I went to Target, and then I went to the grocery store, and then had to stop by work for a few minutes. So I was gone like 2 hours, and literally didn't even touch my phone for 2 hours. For the first minute, I thought about it, but then after that, and it's funny as I
Like
was
it's like the old days.
at my last stop, and I was driving home. I was like, yeah, that's exactly. I'm like, huh. I'm like, this is how it was 30
Hey,
years ago.
you were looking for a quarter to go to the payphone.
I didn't have a phone in my pocket at all. None of us ever thought, man,
No.
wouldn't it be great if we had a phone in our pocket? Nobody ever thought
Yeah,
that.
but how the heck did we know? We knew what was going on. We didn't need
Yeah.
that phone or that internet or that computer. We had it going on.
And I tell you,
And you
Monday
had to go to
mornings,
school to find some things out, and there
well,
was
that's what I was
connection.
about to say. Monday mornings at school, the first thing you
Shoot.
did was catch up on gossip.
Sit down in my office. Let's go.
You get there early for homeroom, or on the bus driving to school, and you catch up on the weekend.
Homeroom was your office. That's where you collected all the data. I mean, for real.
Yep.
That was the download homeroom. Shoot. Yep.
And like the neighborhood kids was like a big thing. Like everybody's neighborhood had like it seemed
Yeah.
like every neighborhood around town had a bunch of kids that all knew each other, and they all played sports or did
How was it
video
everybody was
games.
safe? Everybody was safe. It
Yes.
seemed like everybody was safe.
Yep.
Didn't you? Like,
Because
weren't there-
everybody else in the neighborhood looked out for everybody else. So
and
you
you
had
knew somebody's mother or grandma was going to tell on you. They would. But isn't that a sense of feeling important? I mean, maybe they were going to rat you out, but you were important. They cared about you.
yeah, well, I mean, we probably didn't think of it when we were 13 like that way, but yeah, it's just I mean, I think social media has certainly um kind of put a big damper on it, but I just
Just
there
made
are
it worse.
there are speaking for myself, there are internal issues that we bring to it because mine didn't have anything to do with social media. Granted, I'm from a different generation. I
Yeah.
think that's again going back to if it's a pattern, if you are someone that you feel like you constantly need, like you feel like you require presence and you require fulfillment constantly, then there's likely an internal thing that's going on. And look, again, I'm not throwing shade because that was me.
Yeah.
I did have my own set of trauma responses and lived it for 40 some years. So I get it. But I think we have to, it's a kind of a more so important to self reflect and be aware of, okay, if these things are happening over and over again, okay, what can we do that'll bring us to our next thing is, okay, so
Mhm.
now what can we do to
What can we do?
help to navigate?
You know, one thing I was reading and was, look at our societal infrastructure, right? Do we have enough outdoor space where people can be outside? Outside's such an important connector, I think. I probably didn't realize that. I mean, we were always outside, but it was the
Yeah.
importance of the outdoors until we were
We
older.
were not allowed inside.
Yeah. And stop, open that door and let the air conditioner go.
Yep.
But things to do, but library, whatever, theaters, right?
Yep.
Theaters
Yep.
is as much as we'd love to talk about movies and movie theaters is a commonplace. How many, I don't know if you saw on social media, like the finale of Stranger Things, they were showing a dual picture where they would showing the audience reaction to certain
Yep.
scenes,
Yep.
and I'm like, there you are with a shared experience right there. You may not know those people next to you, but
You can't tell me that that
it's contagious.
is not a better viewing experience. You can't tell me. We're not all fortunate like the castles where they'll
I
have 12
have my
people.
own movie theater, right?
Yeah, you've got a dozen people in your house watching Stranger Things. You got your own communal experience, and that's great that you have that. You're fortunate, and that's rare. But now expand on that, and you've got 100, or in these cities where you've got 500 people or 1,000 people in the theater, and like you're all feeling the same exact emotions at the same exact time, and it's vocal and it's outward, and you might not interact
But you can
directly.
feel it.
Yes, it's tangible and visceral. That's
Yeah,
what it heightens the experience. It's just like good music in a movie or a show
right,
heightens the scene.
right.
The communal experience puts it at a 10 for enjoying that movie.
So we got those are the things we need to do. That's one of the antidotes. How do we promote human connection?
So here's my thing, Kathy. Whether, regardless of what specific type of loneliness you're talking about, whether it's the I don't feel seen and heard, or I just I don't have the opportunities, or for whatever reason I don't get to be around people physically socially as much. Self care takes care of both of them. If, like we talked about just a minute ago, if you're working on yourself, you're then kind of building up an immunity to feeling like unseen and unheard, because what the outside world doesn't matter as much to you anymore. You're not as worried about being accepted because you're accepting yourself first and foremost. A and B, while you're doing these, going to the movies is such a self care thing, and you're in there with 100 people. Whether you believe it or not, Jay Watson actually talks to the other people before the movie starts, to these people in the theater, or whether you take a pottery class and you're in there with 5 or 6 other people, or maybe you want to join a drama club for self care, and you're being social with the other people. There's so many. You can do these things that are self care, but involve other people where you have the same interest. You've broken the ice. You have the same interest because you're there in the same place enjoying the same thing. But kind of
I
both
found
ways, you're helping to eliminate that lonely feeling.
I found another statistic that I thought was very interesting. I wouldn't have played it like this. So there was another survey that talked about relationships, and 92% of the people surveyed said relationships provide them meaning and purpose. But look in what order. I don't think I would have guessed this. Family was number one. That was the most important relationship for people. Friends was number two. Romantic relationships was number three. I was surprised it was that low. And pets was the last one. Now I'm sure that changes for whoever you are, but for the majority, that was the I thought that was interesting, right?
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that actually. I'm just not.
I don't
Here's
know
what's
why.
interesting. Here's something I heard today, Kathy, on Sirius XM. That's kind of related. They were saying that in 2025 was the first, I don't know if they said the first time in a certain amount of years that the number of divorces in the country actually decreased.
Really?
But they said that's because the number of marriages dropped significant.
Yes,
People aren't
that's
getting married anymore. Like marriages dropped way down.
that's
So
interesting.
you're going to have less divorces if you've got less people married. That's just that kind of follows suit. But that's interesting, and that's actually a good sign to me because, like we've talked about, I think the number one reason there's this. I like to say there's this giant reason for why any relationship doesn't work is that one or both members go into the relationship for the wrong reasons. Yes, they may not be compatible anyway, but somebody or both parties went into it for the wrong reasons. And the number one specific reason is they don't want to be alone. They're afraid of being lonely.
Yeah.
Women are really, I think, more guilty than men.
And get in toxic relationships and
Yeah.
trauma bonded
You'd
relationships.
rather be in something that's a little bit of a struggle, but you've got somebody than to be healthier
For the
but
record, that is
alone.
not me.
Yes. So I think it potentially if that trend continues where there's less marriages, I would say, okay, now we're on to something. At least our country seems to be figuring out getting married is not going to fix, feeling lonely. You shouldn't get married because you're lonely.
Here was an interesting fix I read about that it challenged us to relearn belonging. Isn't that an interesting concept?
Well, that's kind of goes hand in hand with what I was saying, Kathy. Is if you're picking self care things, you're now going to be in a group of people that have the same. So you belong. You feel like you belong there because everybody else has the same, enjoyment, same. What's the word I'm looking for? Same hobby that you have.
And pay attention to things like I'm thinking in a work setting, I know God knows I've worked here so many years, but people know things about me. They know that I like Snoopy. They know that I like purple, or whatever. Somebody might know your favorite Starbucks drinks or whatever it is. Or I might know that you like seat whatever and you like the seat next to you. So when people know things about you, it's a sense of belonging. So I guess I'm assuming this means
Finding your people.
pay attention to those things.
Yeah.
They're not just, I mean, you and I do have a relationship. We have a close friendship. And, there is a sense of belonging. I do know things about you. You know things about me. But you have to relearn that stuff. You can't just shut it all out. It can't be everybody sucks. Everything's horrible. You have to take those small belonging wins.
Yeah.
And
It's
I like
loneliness,
call people, listen to people, hold space for people.
loneliness is like I said. It's defining loneliness is kind of like defining grief, or people tend to think of grief as this one thing, or primarily this one thing. And like we said, people tend to think of if someone says I'm lonely, that means physically I feel physically alone. But it's broader, it's deeper. The social aspect of human beings, we innately want to feel seen and heard automatically. And if we don't, we feel separate.
Right.
Yeah, we feel like we don't fit in. We're not a part of the group. Tribal. You go back to when we were cavemen. Because the human psyche has really been the human psyche.
Yeah.
Yeah. So working on yourself, doing your self care, not only gives you a strong sense of self where you're less likely to be dependent in an unhealthy way on external things, whatever they are. But it's also, like I said, if you're going to the gym, let's just say, you want to join a gym, you're gonna run into people that are like minded. You're probably gonna find somebody
Just like you were saying, our friend Colin Potts, like you and I have definitely said he's one of the nicest humans ever. And if you don't feel better and that you belong after being that man's orbit, then
Yeah.
shame on you.
I
But
just accidentally came about while I was doing my self care at the gym. I tell you what, I used to really complain about people that use the gym more as a social setting than an exercise setting, and I still am wish that they would lean more towards the exercise side because that's why you're there. However, I'm more accepting that there is a bigger social aspect if
Yeah.
you do it in the right way at the gym. You don't just butt into into while they're doing their exercises. You wait in between. There's a right way to do it. In other words, so I'm not as anti-socializing at the gym as I used to be. I'm actually pro doing it in a healthy way at the gym because it's
A
it's
healthy
kind of turned
activity.
my opinions about it around completely.
And I think the YMCA's, I've always heard, provide the same thing. And I've always heard, so many good senior stories too about
Yep.
retired people that find such friendships
Yeah.
doing classes or whatever.
I was just gonna say, if you're someone who consistently goes to the same class, you're running into you're kind of building this little sub social
Yeah.
group of people
People are
because
probably
you're
going to
all
start asking about you. How are your kids? How are your grandkids?
yep.
Oh, I didn't see you last week. Are you feeling okay?
And in
Volunteer. Be a,
and in that
be a
specific setting, you've got a support system because you're all there struggling to try to
yeah.
you know improve your health in whatever way, and it can be difficult for a beginner. But if you've got a group of beginners there, you're social, you're there for you're like-minded, you're now going to be able to support each other through your journey.
Be a volunteer. Be a board member somewhere. I mean, there's so many nonprofits around that need board members, and
Find something you're passionate about. Yeah.
yeah, just thinking of the boards that I'm on or have been on, or even my own board here. There's so many different people, and you care about them. How's this? How's your new job? How's the college you're teaching at? Whatever. I mean, they belong. People start to belong.
Yeah. So switching gears real quick to speaking
Yeah,
about some fun things that at least Kathy and I like to do. We're going to
yeah.
do a little trivia.
Let's do it.
So go ahead, Kath.
You ready to go?
Yep, go ahead.
I've been on themes lately, so my theme's gonna be no
Stranger
guess.
Things. Stranger Things.
Yes. All right, and mine's gonna be. I'm too predictable. Mine's gonna be music.
Okay.
My trivia question. So, Jay, in Stranger Things, which song reminds Jonathan? I can't even read my writing. Hold on. Okay. Which song? Jonathan made a mixtape for Will. So when Will went missing, this is a repeated song that you hear in the show. He put it on a mixtape, and this is used in several episodes.
I don't have any clue.
It's a male band, obviously a song that
I'm
you.
going to say, this is going to sound so funny. I'm going to say, We're Not Going to Take It by Quiet, what's it? Not Quiet Riot.
Yeah, that is by Quiet, right? That's not
Okay.
it.
Okay.
So it's the Clash.
Okay. One thing leads to another.
Should I stay or should I go?
Okay. So I
And
don't remember that at all. I don't remember
yeah,
that at all.
that was like their connecting song. It's in all fairness, I rewatched the whole thing, so
Yeah.
I heard a lot. I heard that over again in the beginning, like when he was in the upside down in the beginning. He was hearing that in his own head was an upside down, and they would play it in his room.
So there was actually a broader theme to okay, music is gonna help us in some way. Like Max had the famous song.
Yeah,
So yeah. Okay. See, I don't and for some reason I don't remember much. See, I never went back and I went back and watched specific scenes from season 4 because that
right.
was I think that's the best season of all,
We
personally.
like 3 in our house.
So I go back
We like them all.
but I don't really remember like like the first episode ever. I don't remember any of that prior to season
No.
4 at
You
all.
forget. It's like, how the heck do we forget?
Yeah.
I forgot. I'm like, what's happening? And
I can remember generally that Will was abducted and
forgot. Yes, but I forgot that they went and got him. I
yeah.
found out they went down there and got him. I'm like, what? How did I think he got back? But you forget. There's so much that happens. Anyway,
All right, so mine is also music. And this might be the easiest trivia question that I've done for you so far. So
oh, you
I'm going
played.
to be shocked if you do not get this one.
Oh, that's pressure.
So, who has the most famous phone number in music history?
Jenny,
And what
Jenny.
is that phone number?
No.
You can tell I was like like I was right before I went on, I'm like, oh, I forgot a trivia question. So I'm like trying to hurry up and think of something. So I'm like, I'll just think of something really quick and
Yeah.
easy.
Jenny.
For some of you that don't know, was it Tommy Two Tone? Was that the name of the group?
Oh my gosh, how do we not know that?
Why didn't I ask that question? I think it's Tommy Two Tone.
Who? All right.
He sang a song to and about Jenny, and her phone number
It
was
is Tommy Two Tone.
her phone number was 867-5309.
You
And
think
like
that's his only song?
it was probably a one hit wonder. A lot of those back in the day. A lot of people had one hit and never really did much. That was common back in the 80s, was somebody to have one hit and that'd be it.
Jenny made it a cultural phenomenon leading to widespread prank calls for Jenny.
Yeah, I remember actually calling that number.
That's funny.
So going back to speaking of Stranger Things, I know we can now kind of get into the entire feeling of the series being over. So, spoiler alert if you don't want to know kind of what happens. Although I try not to give up too many details. Yeah. So,
If you haven't watched it by now, then we can't help your spoiler.
yeah.
Spoiler.
So, I liked it. I liked season 9 overall. I wasn't knocked. I didn't knock my socks off. I didn't like it as much as I did, say, season 4, or just the general earlier seasons. I tend to have enjoyed those more, especially season 4, more than season 5. Now, episode 4
Right.
of I loved, and episode 7 and 8 were pretty good. It was weird how they defeated Vecna and the Mind Flayer, and there was like almost an hour left in the episode. I'm like, what?
Well, but I like that. With me, and I think my family too, our favorite season was season 3. And I've thought about that. Why is season 3 our favorite? And I think it's because you could take a pause and you could see them in their real lives. They had prom and you saw more of high school and you saw their character development, their relationship development. They were hanging out in the mall and doing dumb stuff, you know.
So
Steve
they were giving you a glimpse back of what the 80s were really like.
Steve's working at Scoops Ahoy. Erica starts cussing. I mean,
Yeah.
so like I felt like it gave you a break from all the wildness because there's a lot of wildness in that show too that keeps you on alert. Like, oh my god, are they walking in that woods? Who's gonna die? Whatever. Like you were like, okay, nobody's dying. We're just hanging out. So we liked that as a family that season. But in the later ones, 4 seemed to be intense. Season 4 was a lot going on. And then in 5, the throwaway episode for me was 7. I was like, whatever. That was a lot. There was a lot of B characters, and I didn't need it. But 8, the last one, drained I was so dehydrated, I probably needed an IV. I'm not kidding. I had to remove, we had 10 people watching in our living room. I removed myself to the kitchen where I still have an eye on the TV next to the paper towels, and I went through 3 paper towels. I folded them in half and I just held them under my eyes, and they were soaked and I'd chuckle. There was no Kleenex that was sopping up the mess that was coming out of my tear ducts.
Well,
Right.
what it was the first half of that episode was them defeating Vecna, and the second half was basically saying goodbye and showing with them moving on to the next.
And I don't like goodbyes. I don't do goodbyes. I don't like goodbyes.
You texted me once I found out that you watched it. We were texting back and forth, and you had a difficult time. And
yeah,
as I was reading it, I'm like, I'm thinking, well, this is backwards, that. And look, I was very emotionally invested in season 4. Like it really, I connected with season 4.
We had different connections.
Yeah.
But aren't the Duffer brothers so smart? Like, you and I may have had this discussion, I don't know, that whatever we all have loved, we've loved a lot of things. And I just was thinking about the Harry Potters, the Star Wars, the Marvels, or whatever, not necessarily streaming as much, but, you fall in love with these characters. You want to see, you don't want them to end, whatever. This one, I felt like got you right at, and maybe it's our generation. I felt like it got you right at your heart. It's like you could identify with a lot of these characters. You could see your friends in some of these characters. It just pulled you. It pulled you back into that time and dumped you again.
Well, see, that's why I think we view it a little bit different in that way. Is that like the '80s sucked for me now, but I can appreciate the nostalgia of like
Right.
the clothes and like the things they were doing and like the mall. Like there's symbols of the '80s that was cool to watch.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I appreciated that. I didn't dislike it, but I just wasn't as emotionally connected to it as like you or others may have been. And again, that's kind of the beauty
And
of
the
it.
music.
Now, I didn't think the music in this season was because there was none until the last episode. None.
You pull out the Purple Band, I just cried. The first one, I was like, oh yeah, but when Purple Rain came, that's it.
When Doves Cry,
Purple
but
Rain was
there
really
wasn't a like
brilliant.
there wasn't like a theme song. Like
And Landslide, you can't pull in Stevie Nicks like that. I mean, that song is my family. We associated with that movie Jack Frost. I don't know if you ever saw that.
yeah,
And the father dies, so we associate that song already with like some tragic loss. And I'm like, my God, now you just made me bawl over Purple Rain. Now you're putting Landslide in. I can't do it.
now I mean the songs they chose were great, and you could tell they must have had a better budget because they to be able to play a
Right?
Prince song on your show.
Yeah, but how genius was it? Look what it did for
But
streaming a
but
Prince
but
song.
but the thing is, yeah, oh yeah. But the thing was, if you noticed, like the music part wasn't as long. Like Running Up That Hill played for like almost the entire song. They didn't do that for they chose smaller pieces of three songs instead of the Kate Bush song probably didn't cost them hardly anything to use because it's it was this some
I didn't
obscure
even remember that from the 80s.
that's my point. If they had picked like a Bon Jovi or something like super, it would have cost them millions and millions of dollars. And at that point, they had established themselves quite yet to be able to have the budget. So
You
they
kind of
probably
want to see it.
probably paid more for these three tiny bits of songs than they did for the whole Kate Bush song.
I'm telling you, Purple Rain was brilliant. Like, brilliant.
Great song choices. They just because of they I wanted the music to be part of all of it. Like Kate Bush and Separate Ways were
Oh my God, Journey,
before.
that was great. Yes. There's
Like
supposed to be another album out in January, I think. Well, we are in January for
yeah,
that. But
but yeah, the good.
they said Steve Harrington, Joe Carey picked that song for the credits, The Heroes by David Bowie.
Huh.
There's a lot of little fun facts you keep hearing, and
Well, maybe next Monday, because they're going to
yeah.
do. They did a documentary where they're going to show behind the scenes of filming season 5.
But
Next
how
Monday on
crazy these
Netflix.
kids? They said they didn't set out to make a hit. They're just doing something for Netflix, and it's just ugh.
Millie Bobby Brown is the Duffer Brothers only told her whether Eleven's whether she really died or whether the storyteller actually told the real
Yeah,
he made it sound like we don't know, and that's kind of like I like it like that. Like you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
his story was 11 went off to a far land to get
Right?
away and da 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 da. Lived by the three waterfalls would have been the dream and all that kind of stuff, but we don't know. The Duffer Brothers wrote it and only told Millie Bobby Brown. None of the other actors know. I did hear that Holly Wheeler got more airtime than most of the main characters throughout season 9. She was on the screen for more time than a lot of the main characters were. I like you. I agree. I did not like the little kids being such a big chunk of the.
I
I
want to
mean,
see the OGs
yeah.
because it was ending, and I wanted to say goodbye to them.
Now I will say, and I've heard this.
So I like that last hour because I needed closure. I
The
needed.
girl that played Holly Wheeler is getting rave reviews, and she was actually not the original actress that started the series playing Holly Wheeler. It was another girl, but when the Duffer Brothers knew what they wrote later on, they didn't think that actress was going to be able to handle the depth of what was going to happen.
Well, there's a lot of cool stories like that. Even like I read something last night, and I guess you don't know if everything is true, but the guy that Joe Keir that played Steve Harrington, they were going to kill him off, episode what, just to be a jerk and kill him off who cared about the jerk? And then they said, this is where I don't know if it's true or not, but they said then Lonnie, Will's dad, was supposed to be more of the came in at the end and saved and did like that save kind of thing that Steve did, but that they liked him so much and that the audience liked him so much they changed his character, and it's just kind of cool how things evolved. I
Yeah,
guess.
and the other thing was Dustin. There was supposed to be more to the Dustin and Max and what's the other kid's name? Max's boyfriend.
Like Lucas.
Yes, there was supposed to be more to that, but they
Oh,
actor
that's
that,
right.
the actor that plays Dustin said
Because
that
they all liked her.
he went to whoever and said, they all knew that like the on-screen chemistry between the actress of Max and Lucas was like that was it. Like
Yeah,
so they kind of shifted gears, and because you notice like there was like an additional like hey I like her too, and then it just went away.
yeah,
It was supposed to be more
yeah,
to that, like it's supposed to last longer.
yeah.
She's gonna end up being the biggest star.
Sadie's.
Sadie State, yeah, she's gonna be in a Marvel. She's in the next Superman or not Superman,
She
Spider
said
Man.
she said on Jimmy Fallon she heard it online before they called her. That's funny,
Yeah,
right?
she's gonna be in the next Spider Man, which is I mean, come on, doesn't get any bigger than that.
Yeah.
She probably had the a lot of really juicy stuff to do. Her character was she went through a lot. She came in later. She wasn't like
Yeah, right?
she wasn't there from the get go. She was
And at
like
first I was like, whatever. She's a whatever
yeah,
character.
but she kind of came in what season 3, season 4, something like that.
Maybe no, she was in the mall, which was a 30. I don't know if she came in at the end of season 2. Her and Billy.
But
So
yeah,
Billy's character ended up being the real jerk, not Steve.
she had some juicy. That was some meat on the bones for what she had to do. She had to be in a coma while being in this other world at the same time, and then come out. She had
Yeah,
some good
that's some
scenes to
fun.
do. So I mean, I overall liked the entire series. I think like most of the shows that kind of were victims of COVID and the writer strike, where they had the big gap in between filming. Kind of it kind of really showed itself. Not just because the kids were so much older, and it lacked the charm because they weren't little. And you're like, there was at least for me, these little at the time little kids you know are defending the world against this danger that none of the adults except for Winona Ryder and Hopper know about. They don't. The other people in the city or town don't believe the kids when they're saying, "Hey, this is what's going on." Nobody was believing them. There was a charm to it. There was less charm because they're now, you know, at least character wise, seniors in high school. It just was to me
Yeah,
was bad.
I get it. But you know
Uh,
what bridged that for me is the relationship with the kids and Steve. He became like the babysitter and
right.
like
Well, it's funny, but he ended up being a coach at the end. He was a baseball coach.
yes, so
Um,
cute.
yeah,
It was fun. What a fun ride though. And that the whole point of movies and TV shows like that is to just we connect with it, connect with other people about it, and it brings all kinds of emotions out of you.
and
It makes you feel alive.
being able to talk about it, whether it's online or whether it's a person, you know, maybe it's people that you work with. You say, "Hey, did you watch Stranger Things?" You guys can have a conversation about whether you like
Yes.
whatever it is, Stranger Things or Ted Lasso or
Right.
Game
It
of Thrones, any of these big shows that were like the
it
big.
helps with relationships. I mean, I know our kids. I mean, I feel like it's a bonding thing to sit there and watch these things with our kids because we all have opinions and we're all like, oh my god, you know. Then there was like even like bringing Derek in, delightful Derek, and just
Douchebag Derek.
and and sassy Erica and just repeating things they say, and it's just funny.
Yeah, there will have been and will be kind of some cultural things that come out of that whole. Whether it was people were doing their Christmas decorations or lights based on Stranger Things or what things like that. There's those handful of like big blockbuster streaming shows. Ted Lasso, Game of Thrones wasn't really It was on the original HBO, so it wasn't really a stream. It was a cable show at the time, but that was a big one. There's been a
How
couple others.
you're a statistic guy. Do we know how it did in the theaters? Those two
I
days?
don't.
I don't either.
It was. It's funny. Like I said, this was the lowest rated on Netflix of any of the seasons, and it was funny. You know how Netflix has like they'll do their top 10 watch shows.
Yeah.
It would be like 3 and 4. It wasn't very number one very often. It was like their third or fourth on their own network. And look, I'm sure it still did very, very well, even at third or fourth. And the entire series was a hit as far as viewers. I mean, it broke the internet. Season 4 broke the internet. You literally couldn't get on Netflix for season 4. You have to wait the next day because it was too much traffic. So yeah, it'd been interesting to see what the next big phenomenon is. Ripple, keep watching it because it gets better and better and better, and it gets more heartwarming and more feel good. It just makes you think.
I'm trying to understand this Stranger Things thing. I'll have to read more about it, like the movie theaters.
But I'm looking forward to. So this week is for me. This week coming out, I think Thursday night is the new American version of Traders. I love that show, and The Masked Singer is tomorrow night, and there's Tell Me Lies. That's another good one. That's so good. This is season 4, I think, of that. Worst, one of the best slash worst villains
Oh,
ever.
that's right. You keep telling me that I haven't seen that
Yeah,
one.
oh, he's such a. I mean, he's one of the.
We're wondering
Like,
when's
it's,
Outer Banks coming? Do we know?
Case Kelsey and what's his face got back together again. They've been off and on.
I'm probably the only person that thinks they shouldn't be together. I don't know why they get on my nerves. They do.
So
You
yeah,
know.
yeah. So anybody watch Ripple, watch All Her Fault. That's really really yeah. And the Copenhagen
Yeah, you
test.
said that.
That's your boys will love that, no doubt. Like, uh, yeah, you'll probably like it too. It's so good.
Well, we'll be back. We'll be back.
Didn't you watch the hunting party? It was on NBC where the prison full of serial killers they escaped, and this girl, this profiler, and then a couple other guys are trying to track down all the serial killers that escaped from the prison. Well, so I talked to somebody about that. Maybe it wasn't you. That's the new season. That it's on regular TV. It's on NBC. Well, it'll be Peacock too, but I think that's coming up at the end of this month, 18th or 19th something. Yeah, January is like a good premiere month for some reason. I mean,
I know that
back
it's
in the day
fall.
when a new series started, it was September. It was like right after we went back to school, like the new season of whatever show we were watching. Now it's like January is like there's no rhyme or reason to when they start a new show. It's just whenever they film it, I
I
guess.
did see Avatar. I did go to the theater at 9 a.m. in the morning and watched Avatar.
I look, I love going to a theater, but there's something about I could not go in the morning.
And I still ate popcorn and snow caps. I did not drink the soda. I still ate the popcorn. Avatar was okay, but I'm not. I'm an okay Avatar fan. My kids like it, so I went with the kids.
Yeah,
But
I'm kind of hit or miss. If I see it,
no, man,
great.
it's long as crap. And it's to me, it's like it's still pulling that same story, and it's like how many hours can we watch that same theme?
Yeah,
So
I
I
mean it's done well. It's done over $1 billion worldwide. So
people love it.
I don't get it personally. I understood the very first one because it was this brand new technology. So I get that people wanted to tune in for that, and I understand that. But it wasn't this like knockout story
No,
because now the technology part's gone. There is no
right?
hook that's technology. That's there is no
Yeah,
more of that part. It's about the story, and to me, there's not enough there to be like, oh
exactly.
yeah,
But aren't they supposed to be doing more?
there. He said James Cameron has said because this is number 3, I believe. He said that if 4 and 5 do not get the green light, he will tell us whether it's in an article or whatever. He will tell us where the story was supposed to go if the movies are not released. He has said
What else they're gonna do? I mean,
they're doing the elements apparently because it was the Way of Water and
no,
this
this
one's
one was
fire.
water too.
Is it? Oh, I thought it
It's
was.
still water, but there was some fire there, but it's still around the
Okay,
water.
because I thought fire was kind of the
Very
thing.
heavily water still.
Okay, because the
But
second one showed a way of water, and it just
there was a mean fire lady. She was pretty wicked, but I don't know. It's okay.
yeah.
I did my job.
Anyway, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you guys for tuning in, and please keep watching on all the platforms and all the good stuff. We appreciate all the viewers. We just passed 80,000 views a couple weeks ago, so that's pretty cool. Thanks again. Next time on Easter Short Talk. Take care, guys.